Welcome back to the Arctic Beyond, and welcome back to my film series about Arctic films. We're talking about Rare Exports: A Christmas Tale. It's a 2010 horror comedy directed by Jalmari Helander from Finland, a Finnish language horror comedy set in Finland about a young boy in Lapland who discovers the terrifying truth behind Santa Claus. This film got a fair bit of attention when it was first released back in 2010. What's less known, actually, is that there are several short films which preceded this film. But this film is actually a prequel to the two short films. So I think that if you are interested in this film and you've not seen it yet, I would recommend actually seeing the feature film before you watch the two short films, as they do in fact spoil how the full-length film ends up ending. Rare Exports falls into that category of film that I would call very original, very interesting, not great. It's a very imaginative film, which is definitely to be applauded, but this is a horror comedy which manages to be neither very scary nor very funny. Rare Exports follows a young boy, Pietari, played by Onni Tommila, who raises the film's quality by a significant margin all by himself. It's a truly excellent child performance. Pietari is tasked with being naive, vulnerable, emotional and heroic throughout the film, and he does it with aplomb. Pietari discovers the remains of a geological expedition up on the top of a mountain, which has disturbed something deep in the mountain that drilled too deep, as Gandalf would say. What they have discovered takes revenge upon the expedition. What follows is a journey of discovery, survival, and ultimately the human exploitation of power that should not be messed with. The twist of the film, really, as I hinted at before, is about evil Santa Claus. That's basically where the film ends up going. It's that we take the tropes that you know about Santa and turn them all into something dark. And that's where both it relies on its horror and its comedy. And that's why it neither ends up being particularly funny or scary, because its unique selling point is what it tries to twist into that genre staple. But what it could do better is having certain things which are, this is meant to be funny and this is meant to be scary, rather than this, all the individual original bits are meant to be both, and I don't think that ever quite worked. So some of the tropes that they turn around, things like Santa's elves, instead of being those little toy-making whimsical figures, they are old and creepy and violent and murderous. Santa will kill you if you swear or smoke, if you do things to get on the naughty list. Santa will enact his vengeance upon you swiftly and without mercy. Reindeer, they're not a companion for Santa and the elves. They are in fact completely killed, all the reindeer, and children are being kidnapped for some unknown goal. If you take the film for certain moments, if you were to say, here's a Finnish horror comedy that twists what we know about Santa into this darkly funny survival horror, I think a lot of people would go, oh, that sounds amazing, sign me up. And in moments, it is really good. But that's a big part of the problem as well. You see, as I mentioned, of course, this is from a filmmaker behind several short films, and I think that is where his expertise lies. He's a great short film maker, but stretching that into a feature film is a difficult task. So let's say maybe every 20 minutes or so, every 15-20 minutes, something really cool happens. Something that, and this film has become definitely a real cult favourite for audiences around the world. Cult audiences really like films that have bombastic, crazy moments every so often. At a kind of cult film screening, you like to have a film which something crazy happens, everyone cheers and drinks to it, and then you can just kind of chat to your friends for a little bit until the next thing happens. It's not meant to be a deep, methodical viewing experience. It was almost always destined to be a cult film, this was. And so, it has an audience and it has its charms, but for a film that it's only about 80 minutes long, it drags. And 80 minutes is not long for a film. I love a film that manages to be, 90 minutes or even less. That's fantastic. I really can't stand long films. But it manages to somehow, even at being really short, the film has periods where it drags. It feels a lot longer than 80 minutes, but I looked it up for this review. I was thinking it was going to be 100 minutes, something like that. And I was really shocked that it was only 80, because it definitely doesn't feel like that, and not in a good way. And as this is a prequel to those short films, the film is definitely shackled to the world that it sets up in these short films. And so while the film plays out in a certain way, it has to take a very abrupt shift toward the end in order to meet what the short films, the sequels, do set up. And you do feel that shift. There is a point when suddenly things just very quickly change and it doesn't quite fit. But even so, even with all of this, this is a unique take on the Christmas genre. As I mentioned, the child, Pietari, that performance is fantastic. I really think that his performance deserves to stand up with some of the great child performances in Christmas films. Definitely a film worth watching, even if it's never really going to be a Christmas classic. Thank you once again for spending some of your time with me. Hope you're enjoying these little film reviews. As always, let me know if there's any other films about the Arctic that you'd like to see me cover. Stay safe. Have a nice day. Bye-bye.